All right, strap in, because this time we're going deep on a resume that you might mistake for, like, a tech thriller novel instead of a career history. We're talking Cruz Macias, his journey through, well, bits, bytes, and biometrics even.
I gotta say, that percentage system he's got for his skills really jumps out, doesn't it? 20% you're dabbling, 100% you're basically the master. It's certainly a way to show experience visually.
No kidding, it definitely caught my eye. And he's not holding back on those 100%, either Python, Java, C+, you name it, Oracle databases, the list, it just keeps going.
Yeah, and I think that really hints at someone who doesn't just pick something up, they go deep, like they're really aiming for that true mastery. And that kind of commitment, you see it in how he went after those advanced certifications too, like the Oracle People Tool certification, which that's no walk in the park.
Oh, absolutely not. That's not just ticking a box, that's someone who's serious about staying ahead of the game. And speaking of which, let's track his career path a bit, shall we? Right now, he's riding that remote work wave, working as an Oracle Cloud developer over at UC Health, which he's been doing since, let's see, late 2022.
It really reflects how things are changing, doesn't it? Even before everyone was working from home, he was already remote at places like Textel CX and Ameren Services. But what I find really interesting is his time at Pepsi MidAmerica. So this was from September 2017 to November 2019. And he wasn't just, coding in the abstract. He was actually managing their whole biometric timekeeping system.
Okay, so not your typical clock-in, clock-out situation then.
Oh, not even close. This was serious business, talking about securing massive amounts of sensitive data across a huge organization. Think multiple distribution centers, biometric scanners, the whole 9 yards. It really makes you think. That kind of experience, it probably gave Cruz a deep understanding of not just data management, but security and even legal compliance, especially with how sensitive biometric information is these days.
And speaking of legal matters, Pepsi MidAmerica, they settled a case while he was there, something to do with the Illinois Biometric Information Privacy Act, BIPA, and guess who was involved in recovering the data for that settlement?
Sounds like our Mr. Macias found himself right in the middle of things. This wasn't just about code anymore. This was navigating a high-stakes situation with, well, potential legal and ethical fallout, really.
Wow, talk about a crash course in how data impacts the real world, huh? It really makes you wonder, how does something like, say, developing training protocols and teaching agents at Americana Financial Group, which he did earlier in his career, how does that even prepare you for something like this?
Well, you see, those communication and instructional skills, they're way more valuable than people realize. Being able to clearly communicate and explain these complex systems, it's crucial in any field, but especially when you're dealing with sensitive data and legal frameworks like that.
It's like he was, I don't know, unknowingly building the skills he'd need to deal with this whole increasingly complex world of data privacy.
Exactly. But before we get too far into that whole BPA thing, let's talk about Cruz's dedication to education, because this is someone who clearly believes you never really stop learning.
Oh, absolutely. This wasn't a get your degree and you're done situation. The guy went on to get his Master of Science in Computer Science from Eastern Kentucky University, specializing in cybersecurity and digital forensics, no less.
Now, that is a telling choice. Cybersecurity is only becoming more important, and digital forensics. That's, well, it's basically investigating and analyzing digital evidence, right? So think high-stakes problem solving in a world that relies on technology more every day.
And he didn't stop at just the master's degree either. He also picked up a graduate certificate, same field, cybersecurity and digital forensics, same university too, really solidifying that expertise.
It's seriously impressive, and it's even more so when you realize that Eastern Kentucky University's master's program for that, it was ranked pretty highly, actually among the best online programs by Fortune Education just last year, 2023. It suggests to me that he wasn't just looking for any degree. He wanted a quality education from a place people respected,
It really shows that this is someone who values knowledge and expertise. But honestly, what really struck me while he was working on his master's, he was also a tutoring center supervisor up at Northern Illinois University, and get this, a mathematics tutor over at Kishwaukee College at the same time.
Talk about dedication. That shows a passion for not only learning, but sharing it, helping others succeed, and all while he's working towards some pretty demanding goals himself. That's something else.
And then you've got, well, the sheer number of certifications. I mean, Dell Certified Systems Expert, Oracle University certifications for PeopleSoft, People Tools, INI. It's like a whole collection. Digital badges of honor, almost.
Right, but it's more than just collecting credentials, isn't it?
Yeah.
Each one is like a deep dive into a specific area, a testament to, his dedication to always be learning, always be developing professionally.
Exactly. And it's not just theory with this guy. He loves to get his hands dirty with real coding projects. He even built his own Bitcoin API using Python, no less.
No, that's where you see the passion for technology
Yeah.
really going beyond just the job description,
Right.
you know.
Totally. For those of us who don't speak code fluently, could you maybe break down what makes developing a Bitcoin API so impressive?
Well, in essence, an API or application programming interface, if you want to get technical, it's how different software systems talk to each other, how they exchange information. So when he builds a Bitcoin API, he's not only showing he understands this complex system, but he can create the tools that let other programs interact with it too. It's pretty high-level stuff.
And as if that wasn't enough, there's also his CoinDesk Java project, which makes me think he's pretty interested in the whole world of cryptocurrency news and keeping up with the market. It's like he's not just interested in how blockchain works, but how it could actually change things like finance and how we get information.
It's remarkable, isn't it, how he connects these totally different areas. This isn't just a coder. This is someone who synthesizes, He sees the links between tech, finance, even music. Would you believe it?
Music. Are you talking about the Suno AI API gospel music generation Python application?
Wow.
Now that is what I call thinking outside the box.
Right. It's pure creativity, blending his own personal interests like his faith and his taste in music with his technical skills. To me, it suggests a mind that's always looking for new, innovative ways to use technology to express himself, to explore.
And he's not keeping it all to himself either. He's sharing these projects on GitHub, contributing to that whole open source community, and that says a lot about him, I think. He's not just building for himself, he's building for everyone, for the sake of knowledge itself.
It's a breath of fresh air, honestly, especially in tech, which can be so competitive. He's not hoarding what he knows. He's not guarding his creations. He's putting it out there, inviting others to learn, to add to it, to build something together.
It's that openness, that collaborative spirit that really makes him stand out. But, as impressive as all the technical stuff is and his projects, I keep coming back to that BIPA situation at Pepsi MidAmerica.
It's important, isn't it? The fact that he was involved in data recovery for a BIPA settlement, it suggests he can handle himself where technology and legal matters intersect, and those skills, they're only going to be more and more important.
It's one thing to build the systems, but to actually grasp those legal and ethical implications, that's another level.
Exactly. And that's where Cruz's experience becomes so valuable. This isn't just a coder. This is someone who gets it, the real-world impact of technology and how important it is to develop it responsibly.
It adds a whole other layer to his story, wouldn't you say? A layer of, well, complexity and intrigue, really. You know me, I'm still hung up on that whole BIPA thing. Feels like something straight out of a tech thriller, hidden right there in his resume.
Definitely makes you think, right?
Right.
It's a good reminder that we're not just talking about ones and zeros here. This is real life, real people's data.
Exactly. BIPA, by the way, in case anyone isn't familiar, it stands for the Illinois Biometric Information Privacy Act. And it's become a pretty landmark piece of legislation, at least when it comes to protecting data.
Oh, absolutely. It's really set the stage for how we handle sensitive biometric information, things like fingerprints, facial scans, all that data that's basically intrinsically linked to who we are.
So it's not just about saying, nope, not scanning my fingerprint today. It's about who gets to decide how that data is used, who controls it.
Precisely. BIPA, it's all about transparency. Companies, they need to get informed consent before they even collect that kind of data. And they need to have clear policies for how long they keep it, and of course, tight security to prevent anything shady happening to it.
And this wasn't just some theoretical exercise for Cruz either. Pepsi MidAmerica, remember, they settled a BIPA case when he was working there, and he was involved in recovering the data for the settlement.
Can you imagine being the one who has to put together that digital puzzle, figure out what went wrong, make sure everything is preserved and secure, all while lawyers are breathing down your neck? You'd need some serious technical skills, but also you'd have to understand the legal side of things too.
So are we thinking Pepsi MidAmerica might not have been following all of BPA's rules?
It's definitely possible. Maybe there were holes in how they gathered data, how they stored it, their security, or maybe there was a breach. You never know. Whatever happened, the fact that Cruz was involved says a lot. It was a high-pressure situation, problem-solving needed, and all under a legal microscope.
The fact that they trusted him with that is pretty telling, don't you think? They must have known he could handle a delicate situation like that.
Absolutely. It really speaks to his credibility, not just as a programmer, but as someone who understands how serious data privacy is and what can happen if sensitive information isn't handled right.
You know, it makes you wonder. That master's degree, cybersecurity and digital forensics, almost seems like it was meant to be.
It's funny how things work out, isn't it? That background definitely would have prepared him for something like this. Digital forensics, after all, it's all about digging into digital evidence and making sense of it. Those skills, they're directly applicable to a BIPA case.
It's like he was building his toolkit, getting ready to navigate these tricky ethical waters before he even knew where he'd be sailing.
It's a perfect example of how tech is changing, Having the technical skills, that's important, don't get me wrong, but it's not enough anymore. You have to be able to see the ethical side, the legal frameworks, how it affects actual people. That's becoming more and more important all the time.
It's like we're moving past, hey, can we build this? Now it's, should we build this? And if we do, how do we do it the right way?
Exactly. And that's what's so interesting about Cruz. He's not just reacting to these challenges. He's out there looking for the knowledge, the skills he needs to face them head on.
Building the bridge and walking across it at the same time.
Precisely. But, his journey doesn't stop there. We've talked about his skills, that legal situation, but there's more to it. Think about his dedication to education.
Oh, absolutely. This is a lifelong learner if I ever saw one. And not just for himself. He clearly loves sharing what he knows, empowering others.
Oh, yeah. And his time as an adjunct instructor over at Kishwaukee College, that's a prime example. He wasn't just teaching any old subject either. He chose computer information systems, focusing on, you guessed it, C+ programming and website development.
Talk about essential skills. In this day and age, those are like fundamental. He wasn't giving them theory. He was giving them the tools to create things.
And think about what it takes to be a good teacher.
Right.
Patience, the ability to put yourself in your students' shoes, breaking down those complicated ideas into something they can understand, and making them passionate about learning. You need some serious skills for that, and they're valuable no matter what you do.
You're right. It's all about communication, being a mentor, nurturing that love of learning. It shows he's committed to something bigger than himself.
100%. And you can see that dedication in how he approached it. He didn't just lecture and call it a day. He put together learning modules, quizzes, exams, detailed course outlines. He was even using technology in the classroom itself. Desire to learn? That's a learning management system.
He was going all in, wasn't he? It's like he took the same meticulous approach, that passion he has for his coding projects, and applied it to teaching. Always aiming for excellence.
And that attention to detail, it's everywhere. He used resources like Cengage and Pearson, those big educational publishers, even incorporating their quiz questions to make sure his students were well prepared.
He didn't just meet expectations, he went above and beyond. Designing, managing, even hosting an external website for his course, and making it accessible to students through HTTPS with detailed examples and everything. He was even using FileZilla for file transfer.
It shows he gets it, Learning doesn't just stop when you walk out of the classroom. He created an environment that was engaging, accessible, that went beyond just the traditional boundaries of learning.
And let's not forget, he was using the W3 Spaces platform too. The guy clearly likes to stay current, incorporating the latest web development trends right into his teaching.
It really paints a picture, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This is someone who's passionate about education, and not just as a stepping stone to something else. He sees it as a journey, something you keep doing, growing with, exploring. He's proof that no matter who you are, how old you are, you can always be both a student and a teacher.
Makes you wonder what he'll take on next, doesn't it? What do you think, listener? What stands out to you about how dedicated he is to sharing knowledge?
It's really interesting, isn't it? It's like all these different parts, coding, data security, teaching, they all weave together in Cruz's story. I think it shows how the future of work is going. Those lines are getting blurry. The people who really succeed, they're going to be the ones who can handle multiple things at once. They'll need the technical skills, but also those softer skills. And they can't be afraid to keep learning throughout their careers.
Absolutely. And Cruz is like the poster boy for that, wouldn't you say? We've seen how much he loves teaching, how he goes all in on learning new skills, how he's not afraid of a challenge. But there's one last piece of his resume we haven't really talked about, his personal coding project.
Oh, yeah. Those are great. It's like you get this peek into what he's really interested in, how he wants to push the boundaries of technology. It's creative,
Yeah.
You can see that he's not just clocking in and clocking out.
Yeah.
He wants to build new things. Like that Bitcoin API project, that's a great example.
Developing an API at all is impressive, but for something like Bitcoin, that's next level. You'd need to know blockchain, cryptography, network protocols, the whole works.
Yeah, and it's not even just about understanding it all. It's being able to build that bridge between different pieces of software. He's making it possible for them to share information and talk to each other without any hiccups.
Right. And then he's got that CoinDesk Java project too, which tells me he's keeping up with the cryptocurrency world, the news, the market analysis, all of it. He's not just thinking about the tech, but how it could change things, like, well, money, how we share information even.
It's amazing how he sees those connections, things that you wouldn't think go together. This isn't just a coder, he's a synthesizer. Tech, finance even, get this, music.
Music. Oh, you're talking about that Suno AI API gospel music generation Python application. Now, that is some out-of-the-box thinking.
See, it's creativity.
Yeah.
He takes what he's passionate about, his faith, the music he enjoys, and he combines it with these technical skills. He's always looking for a new way to use technology, express himself, try something no one else has.
And let's not forget, he's not keeping any of this a secret. Sharing it all on GitHub, part of that whole open source community, it speaks volumes about him as a person. He's not just building for himself, he's building for everyone, for the greater good of knowledge, really.
In a world that can feel kind of cutthroat, especially tech, that's refreshing, isn't it? He's not hoarding information. He's not being secretive about what he builds.
Yeah.
It's out there. People could learn from it, add to it, work together.
It's that kind of attitude, that openness, that willingness to collaborate that sets him apart. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Cruz Macias's resume, it's obvious that this isn't just a list of jobs and skills. It's a story. It's a story about passion, dedication, about really going after what you want to learn.
And it's a good reminder for all of us, really. The most important skills, sometimes they're not even technical. It's that ability to learn new things, to roll with the punches, to communicate, to work with others, and never stop being curious.
It really makes you want to look at your own career that way, doesn't it? Not just as a job, but as a journey, something where you can make an impact.
Exactly. And it leaves us with a question, doesn't it? In a world that never stops changing, what's next for Cruz? What challenges will he take on? What will he create? What kind of impact will he have?
Those are questions only time can answer, that's for sure. But if I had to bet, with all his skills, his experience, and how much he loves to learn, Cruz Macias is a name we're going to be hearing a lot more.
No doubt about it. He really represents that spirit of innovation, but doing it the right way, responsibly, which is what we need more of in the tech world. That's definitely a journey worth following.
This has been fantastic. Thanks for joining us, everyone. And until next time, keep exploring.